So I'd love to welcome the amazing Ketki Radha, who is an abolitionist organizer, ancestral witch, tarot and Akashic Records reader, and Reiki master healer and teacher. And she helps comrades and creatives get woo-woo with integrity. I love that. In her spiritual consultations, which I've had, very good, Ketki gets to the root of what keeps creatives stuck to get their energy flowing and creativity sparking. Organisers and activists work with Ketki to call in the life of their dreams, the one where the people are thriving and everyone has enough to go around. They align their values with their work to create positive change in the world around them. And Ketki's newest program is Intuition Initiate, where folks work one-to-one with Ketki herself for 6 weeks to learn their personal intuitive process and call in their desires. Ketki, thank you so much for being here. That all sounds super
Thank you
interesting.
for having me. Ooh.
Awesome stuff. Whoop, whoop. So Ketki, love, tell us a little bit. I know a bit about you, but tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to be where you are right now?
Yeah. So I started off really not having any awareness to my thoughts or beliefs. And it was like I went into college for business, not liking business, like just because I thought that that's what I had to do in order to get a job. Um, and because I didn't like business, I didn't like any of the jobs that I got either. So I had this great history of staying at a job for 1 year to like 1.5 years and leaving. And I can't say that that trajectory has not continued. That has just continued to be the case. But there was a long time where I judged myself for that. And I thought that that was like a huge flaw in my system, that I wasn't resilient enough for the world. And I had all these worries about whether I was good enough to survive this crazy world that we live in. And I had a therapist one day who said, "Where does that come from? Like, why do you believe that?" And I said, "I don't believe that. That's the truth. That's not a belief." So it wasn't until that conversation that kind of like my spiritual journey was sparked, where I was like, wait, I have thoughts and beliefs in an interior world that is like different than the world around me. And then I got into activism and organizing, just honestly through some friends,
Mm,
and also specifically when Roe v. Wade was being overturned. I like could not sit back anymore.
yeah.
Um, and through that journey, I started learning more about tarot. And I started learning about tarot because I was working this shitty sales job, and I had a coworker who, um, she was always a little bit grumpy, and I think that she would be okay with me saying that because I think she assumes that personality and is fine with that. But one day she came in and she was just like glowing and like made so many sales, and I was like, "What did you do? What happened? What over the weekend? You're literally a different person." And she was like, "Well, I had this tarot reader with my friend Amber Ginger, who I would absolutely happily recommend to anyone. She's also a prolific reader."
Mm,
And so I was like, "Okay, let me try this." Didn't believe in tarot at the time. Had a tarot reading. She told me exactly what was going to happen in my life. All of it happened in my life. And a year later, I was like, oh, there might be something to this. And I picked up a deck. I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. And I started doing readings for free on TikTok, with nothing but someone's like handle. I didn't even have their names. I started recording these little readings, and it turned out, even with just a little TikTok handle, you can still get information for people. And it's still fairly accurate,
yeah.
which was great, which was really, it was fun for me to learn more about my energy and what kinds of talents we all have. And at the time, I really was like, we must all have this because there's nothing special or interesting about me. I've never read tarot before.
Lies.
So, so it must be everyone can do this. or I'm just making it up and people are making it fit. So I stayed a skeptic for a while. But over time, I could not help but see that there was something beyond
Mm.
just
Yeah.
making up shit. uh,
Yeah.
and so I decided to start offering more, and it was great. And then I picked up Reiki and I picked up Akashic Records, and we talked a little bit about this in our other interview, where I started doing all of that because um, I thought I needed to. I thought I needed to have a billion modalities that people could come to me for. But it has been really wonderful, really fun to work with people.
Yeah.
Um, and
And I
the
love what you
blood.
say about, this is something that everyone has.
Mm,
'Cause I think
I
I
do.
agree with you there.
Yes.
We're all these wonderful souls. We're all connected.
Yeah. That has continued to be true. At the time, that was more like me limiting myself,
Yeah.
but I have found that everyone really does have absolutely the ability
Yeah.
to tap in. Like I said, didn't believe in any of this, and I could still get information.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone can.
So I'm guessing that's what your program it really helps people to do. It's
Yes.
accessing, it's clearing all the shit that's stopping them from being able to access because
Yeah.
modern day world and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's everything. It's like we work from like the subtlest levels of where people are getting information, but they might not recognize it as information, to like the biggest downloads that they're getting that um they're probably thinking, "Oh, I just picked that up from someone else or somewhere else." And
Yeah.
really that's like an intuitive hit for them. And so we help clear blockages. There's activations in the training program, and we just figure out what the person's like individual intuitive process is, because everyone's going to have different gifts come online more
Yeah.
quickly than other gifts. And so instead of working against that and feeling like we need to develop everything at the same time, we just like go in and uncover what's there, and
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, get people ready to
So just, I
be
mean, intuition is a word that's thrown around a lot, and I suspect, and this might just be me, um, we kind of think we know what it means,
mm-hmm.
but I also think we become so detached from it. Perhaps we have a bit of a trouble distinguishing between what would be intuition and what might be that little inner voice, your ego, just trying to keep you safe and keep you small. So,
Yeah.
what what would you suggest? What's the difference between intuition and, I guess, fear?
Yeah. So I think it's all intuition.
Okay.
Even the fear is still intuitive. You're still learning something about yourself. But when there's a difference between when intuition is coming up because that's something you need to act on, and when intuition is coming up because it's something you're ready to clear. And so like I don't think that there is anything that's coming up that isn't good information for us to have.
Yeah.
And that's how I think of intuition, is just information that's coming to us in a way that we maybe can't explain or can explain.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard it
Yeah.
described like that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, when people start mentioning tarot or the records, there's kind of I think there's kind of a people are either oh
Sure.
like oh
Yeah.
so if someone didn't necessarily know or hadn't experienced, let's stick with tarot for now, a tarot card reading, what sort of stuff comes up, how do you know if it's working, for instance?
Everything comes up. um, Everything, the kitchen sink. Um, People's deepest seated fears come up. People's like deepest wounding comes up. And sometimes it's not deep. Sometimes it's just like surface level stuff comes up.
Mhm.
But when we're doing tarot, typically my process is like I'll start pulling some cards. I'm not one of those practitioners who's like, don't tell me anything and I'm going to predict everything about your life. Like, that's just not my process. I'm usually working through some deeper, like, emotional wounding with people. So we're having a conversation and I'm not asking for it to fit. If it doesn't fit, we're gonna like go a different direction if it doesn't fit. So I don't necessarily need it to like work. I'm okay with just like asking for feedback from people. Because sometimes like, well, every time it's a better session when it's a conversation. It's almost never that I'm just giving information and I'm not receiving anything from the person that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
But I do always do stuff on the phone. Like, I don't want to impose my beliefs about what they have in the background or what they look like or anything like that. So I don't, well, and there's that. And then there's also,
Yeah.
I don't like to perform on camera when I'm doing it. So I just try
Oh,
to keep
yeah.
it on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it makes it a little bit easier, I think, to say it's working because we can just work together on it.
Mm.
When we do readings, especially if I'm doing them with someone who's learning to read for themselves, we're just asking what's standing out to us. Where's our mind going? Because that's probably where we need to go.
Mm.
Um, and so I'll often ask, what's coming up for you? As I say
Yeah.
this, what's coming up for you?
Yeah. So is it almost, I mean, I know of tarot. I've got a tarot deck with lovely, pretty pictures. I don't know what any of them bloody mean, but there's a lot of cards in a tarot deck.
There are
And
72 cards.
yeah, and
10,000 cards, sorry.
they all have like their own meanings, but
Mhm.
I'm guessing that the meanings can shift. So are you kind of, oh, I'm going to ask a question like, how long is this piece of string? But do you kind of tap into like spirit guidance for it, or do you base it on your own intuition as to what the cards come up, and you kind of you read that card based on either something coming through you or something that's just
Yeah.
popped into your head?
So both. I don't necessarily, so I do use the language spirit guide, but if the
Yeah.
person that I'm talking to doesn't fuck with that, pardon my language, that's fine. If it's their higher self, if it's something that's their inner knowing, if it's God, if it's angels, spirits,
Mm.
ancestors, whatever, totally cool with me. All I'm doing is tapping into that person's energy. And I always ask for consent before doing that because I don't want to just randomly
God's
get
rude.
whatever the heck I want. It's not good for me either. And so uh, it's a good question. It's everything and nothing, unless there's like a specific, they're like, I want to talk to my spirit guides.
Yeah.
I want to talk to this ancestor.
Mm.
The cards are just a tool. So it's just a way to divine or communicate with whatever is not like tangibly present. Um, and like there is a subtle energy from the cards themselves. Like every deck will be a little bit different. And I do
Yeah.
use different decks for different reasons or different people. Um, or just based on like I have some decks that are saltier than others. Sometimes I need a saltier reading. So that's what I'll go to. But whatever that person's belief system is a-okay with me and works totally fine for the cards.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Beautiful.
but I think there was also like another question in there around, do you follow the meanings of the cards?
Yeah.
To some extent, yes, because I know them.
Yeah.
But but we don't have to.
Yeah.
Often, especially when I'm sitting with someone who's learning the cards, I'm just asking like, what is standing out? What colors are the most like impactful or meaningful to you? Because whatever that person's intuition is telling them is it's always trumps what the card's
Mm.
specific meaning is. Um, there might be a reason that a card is coming up, and it's not because that's what that card signifies, but it's because there's a picture of a cat on it, and that person loves cats, and they're, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like it's certainly if for people who are learning to read them, it seems like one of the things you really help people to get is a trust in their own intuition, a trust in their that I'm reading this
Yes.
the right way and it's okay kind of
Yes.
thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One of the hardest blocks to get through at the beginning of an intuition journey is trust in the self and then trust in the universe.
Yeah.
Because it's just a new way to move through the world. We're most often putting trust in, or we're kind of told to put our trust in other people, that other people are more of an authority in our lives.
Mm.
For people who are socialized as women, that's often a father figure or even a mother figure. Um, and then, at least in America, God is everywhere. The Christian God is like on our government documents.
Is
So,
that well popular?
like, very all the time, everywhere, pop culture, through everything. So, even for someone who did not grow up Christian,
Mm.
I even still had that like fear of God in me. And so we all have that um, internal belief that we're
Yeah.
moving through. And so putting the trust back in ourselves is key. One of the ways that I do that is literally just to affirm the person. Like, what are you feeling? Oh, that's right. That's correct.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. Like you just that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing stuff. So I mean, we touched a bit on the tarot card section. Just out of curiosity, what's like a, again, piece of string. What is like the most popular thing people ask for guidance with tarot? Is there
Ooh.
like a most popular thing, or is it completely different for every single person?
It is different for every person, and it'll be different for every tarot reader too, just because
Okay.
they're gifted with something different.
Mm.
I'm very often dealing with emotional wounds, either wounds or sometimes just like stories and narratives that we have for ourselves. So a lot of my readings are about relationships, and that is both romantic but also not romantic. Relationships
Mm.
with family members too come up very often. And then the other thing that comes up is around career, purpose. Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? Um, the answer is always you're not supposed to be doing anything. There's
Unhelpful.
it's true.
I know.
I often will ask, like, what is this person's purpose for being here? And they're like, we don't care. You can do whatever you want. There's no purpose other than to just exist.
Yeah.
Uh, Often an unsatisfying answer, but could be more satisfying because you get to decide.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know certainly when I reached out to you, it was more it was more based in, I mean, I wanted to meet my spirit guides, that was my thing.
Hmm.
But it was, a lot of it was just based in curiosity because I find all that
Yeah.
fascinating. It's not something I think I can do. But I love that. I'm always fascinated by it and sort of what comes up from it. Yeah, I
Well,
love
you
that.
can do it. I
Yeah, yeah,
promise
I was waiting for you to say that. Au contraire, Claire, you can. But yeah,
you.
we've touched on the tarot cards a little bit, but I want to speak more about the Akashic Records because that's also
Yeah.
something else you worked through with me. And one of my things is I've heard the name, but I don't really know what it is or how it fits into my life.
Hmm. Hmm.
So how does it? What is it?
Yeah, and I did not explain any of
Tell
this
us
in our
more about
session,
it.
so this is great. So the Akashic Records are it's just the term Akashic Records is a word, a couple of words. It doesn't really mean anything. In every tradition, there is something like the Akashic Records. And it's basically like a library or a repository of one's soul. So it's history, it's future, it's timelines, it's kind of everything, any kind of information that you might want about yourself and for anything, right? Like my laptop has a Akashic Records, my coffee mug has an Akashic Records, the trees have Akashic Records. So like anything that you want to tap into at any level, you can. Um, you can tap into groups Akashic Records for an entire collective. It's one of the most expansive modalities that I use because it can kind of be applied to everything, and you can get such a plethora of information. But most often it's used to search for like a root cause. And so we'll go back to a past life to understand what's happening, what's the narrative, what's the belief behind it, how do we dissolve it, how do we move forward from it, what's the new belief that we're taking on now. So a
Mm.
lot of belief work happens in the records.
Okay.
Um, it's one of the most protective places that I feel like I've ever been. There's not a lot of interference when you're in the records because it just feels like a very sacred space. I'm trying to think of other uses. There is like healing work that happens. Obviously, belief work is healing work, but it's not always on the physical level. It can be.
Mm.
Um, I've cleared pain before in the records. I've cleared allergies in the records. Like
Oh, wow,
stuff
okay.
like that can definitely come through in the records. Um, just because like an allergy is just an inflammatory response to something that's coded. So,
Yeah.
um, so you can change code at any point if you want to.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
interesting.
think that's the
Yeah.
records.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned that the time in the past and the future and stuff. So, can you use the records to, I don't want to say predict the future, but do you know what I mean? Can you use the records to give you a direction?
Um, I would say you can if you want to use it for that.
Hmm.
I don't because the records is a little bit too expansive for me to catch on to like a thread. So when I'm looking at future, I'm seeing like all of the possible futures. Um, so what's more helpful for me to do in the records is just to look at like which way are you trying to go and how can we get you in that direction,
I'm with you. Okay.
because if I'm just predicting a future, like I'm seeing every possibility that could happen and anything is possible. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'd never thought of it like that. That's interesting. So, how do you know whether you should be using tarot or dipping into the Akashic records?
I always give everyone a choice,
Okay.
because there might be something that's calling to a certain person, and often the tarot is going to be, I'm working through the everyday guides, which are kind of just like on this plane in this lifetime, what's affecting you right now. And in the records, I'm dealing with like a soul level. The record keepers kind of have a different, slightly different energy than everyday
Okay.
guides do. Um, they're not like technically higher or lower or anything like that, but they kind of have this like echoey feel to them. Like,
I love
they're
that.
like a little bit more
Yeah.
as opposed to guides, like spirit guides. But I sometimes I use cards in the records, which happened with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. As I say, we did. I don't. I know what we did in my reading, right?
yeah,
But that was interesting. That was really interesting. So, like I said, I'd heard the term, but never really understood what it was. So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you really use it to help people get to the root cause of whatever the issue is, so that
yeah,
then they can work their way through it and heal it or whatever it is that needs doing
yeah.
with it.
And they
Yeah,
always have a choice.
yeah,
I've definitely been in sessions where I'm like, here's the root cause. Do you want to heal it?
yeah,
And sometimes they say no.
yeah,
Or I've asked, like, do you want to heal it? Or do you want to see the root cause? And they're like, I don't care about the root cause. Let's just heal it.
yeah.
So, okay,
Okay.
they can do that too.
Yeah, interesting. So what are some success stories you've had, if you like, or some like the big results you've had with both tarot and
Yeah.
Akashic?
Yeah. I had a union organizer that I was working with. And we did some cards for her. And she was feeling very stuck. She was extremely accomplished already, like union organizer. She was I think she was like the VP at the company that she was at. And then she was a published author, like had already done all of the things, but just for whatever reason was feeling very like stuck in the position that she was currently in. And we did cards, and we talked about how there's like some emotional stuff that was coming up with her dad. And as soon as we cleared that, within like the next couple weeks, she got an offer that like doubled her income. So
Chills.
that
I
was
love
really,
that.
really juicy.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
And I don't always hear success stories right after. So it'll be like a year later that they'll be like, oh, I forgot to tell you about this like thing that happened. Or I'll reach out for a review and they'll be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is in the review that I wrote, but I didn't tell you about it.
Yes, I don't know about you if you've had this experience, but the work I do, the results actually it can be very subtle. And it's
Absolutely.
only when you look back on it with hindsight, you're like, well, actually, hang on a sec, all this stuff has happened. And at the time
Yeah.
it's happening, you're just like, oh, it's happening.
Yep.
But then you kind of look back, well, oh, that was just after X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, hang on. Yeah,
Yeah, because
isn't it?
one of the analogies that I use is like it's you, excuse me, it's you and like you are the lantern or you're holding a lantern and you're just able to see up until like the next step.
Mm,
And so it's like everything behind you is dark, everything in front of you is dark. And it's not until you like lift the lantern that you can like see a path. You can't do that in the future because there isn't a future yet. The only thing that's illuminated is just the next step. But if you
yeah.
like turned the lantern around to look at the past, you can kind of see like how far you've come. You wouldn't
Mm,
get to see that as it's happening because
yeah.
everything's dark around you.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so, I mean, my big thing is business. So how specifically can tapping into the tarot and the Akashic records help you in terms of business? What can
Yeah,
you really use them for?
yeah. Well, I use them all the time because I also have this.
It's always
But
reassuring the person who's doing it also
right.
does.
We also deal with the same things that you guys are dealing with. So a lot of times the people that I'm working with are like artists, and so they do have a business, but they don't think of themselves as having a business. They think of themselves as creatives, as artists. And so sometimes tapping into the records is just like reminding them that like if you're an artist today, you were an artist in the past lifetime and you were successful in the past lifetime and you can be successful today too. And like no one was putting a cap on how much money you made because like kings were trying to commission you, like you were living in palaces, like this is, you have been convinced that you can't do that today. It might look different, obviously it will look different, but it's absolutely available for you. And so we're just clearing some of those, like, what have we picked up since a time when we felt really good and confident? And how can we like clear the path to make that possible now? And then, of course, if we're just doing cards, there's a bit of advice that comes through, not always super concrete. Sometimes it is very concrete. Sometimes it's like, you need to go to this place that you went to last week and buy this specific thing. I've had like you need a weighted blanket, you need to buy like a particular brand of stapler, like, and it was like when they did that they made a connection because like someone was there while they were purchasing. It wasn't the actual stapler, it was
Ah,
like a roundabout way of getting them in the right place
yes,
at the right
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So there's sometimes like some mysterious stuff that comes through. Yeah, so it's fun. So you can definitely use it for like how to focus on your business as well.
Mm,
I often have people saying, I have these two routes that I could go. If I did this, what would happen? If I did this, what would happen? We'll pull cards on that and we can see. Because it's not always like you should do one or the other. It's
yeah.
often just like, what do you want to do? What stuff do you want to deal with? What struggles will you face?
Yeah, oh, that's really interesting. And I guess it's also it's having that because I mean I'm just speaking for myself here, but I work by myself from home.
Hmm.
Yes, my other half is a coach, but he's not always around. And I do have a lady working for me, but you know, it's when it comes to sitting down and brainstorming about business decisions, there's really just me.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that a big thing that you really help people with is there's just someone else to talk to. You're not
Yeah.
alone with this, and you can. I would almost guess you kind of act a little bit like a sounding board,
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
then you're able to, you know, through connecting with your guides and stuff, you're able to feed back some really pertinent stuff that can help the
Yeah.
person then make their own decision.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't have to be the only person that they're doing that with. Like sometimes I'll just teach them cards so they can pull for themselves.
Yeah,
And then they'll come to me for bigger decisions that they're doing. But sometimes their guides will say, shut up. They just need to talk this out.
yeah,
And I
that's
will.
interesting.
I'll just let them talk.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So how did you first meet your guides?
Ooh. Well, I did. So I actually did an apprenticeship with Amber Ginger. Uh, she's fantastic. And she helped me. I think so. We got to a place where my guides got a little bit cagey about like specifics. So they wanted to be a bit more ethereal.
Good word. I can't say.
So for my guides, they don't like limits to be placed on them. So I mostly just refer to them as like energies that are coming through.
Mm,
But if I am looking for something specific, then I'll say like, can I have my guide, my main guide, or like my parking guide, or like my guide for um like which books to get right now. Like I'll just ask for something specific and the right guide will show up. Or the guide with the right energy will show up. But they don't, it seems like other people's guides do like names and like to be referred to and like to have some kind of corporeal form.
mm.
My guides just happen to not like that. They're a little bit more nebulous.
And so you mentioned lots of sort of different types of things there. Is there like guides for everything, or are there
Yeah.
like some key specific ones and then a head honcho, or is it?
I do think of it as like a team of guides, and then there's a main guide that you can call on at any time for anything. And he can also, he or she or they or whatever, can act as a relay to other guides and get information and kind of keep it organized. And when I'm first teaching about guides, I usually do ask for students to reach out to their main guide because it'll be a little bit easier for them to hear information rather than getting all of the guides talking to them at the same time. It's a lot to get emotion, and then that can turn into like another limiting belief that they're not good at listening or something like that.
Yeah.
So I sometimes I just ask like, main guide, please show up, and sometimes I do that for myself because I have ADHD and I can't have a lot of interference sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but yes, to answer that question, there's guides for literally everything. You can ask for
Mm.
the guide that's in charge of the spiders that show up on your house to show up.
Oh yeah, I'd like to speak to that one. Looking everywhere. So, I mean, I feel like we're dipping into it. I know you've already spoken to it to a degree, but tell us just a bit more about your program, Intuition Initiate, and
Yeah.
sort of who it is it's aimed at, and kind of, you know, what's I guess the transformation. What are they looking to walk away with at the end, kind of thing.
Yeah. So with Intuition Initiate, I'm mostly talking to folks who are beginners and intermediate intuitives, uh, people who have either never tapped into their intuition or they're tapped into their intuition, but it's not really like an everyday practice that they're working with. So we're looking for how to make a partnership between their intuition and their like how they're making decisions in their everyday life.
Mm.
This is for any profession across the board. I have people who are working in nonprofits. I have gardeners who are doing this program. But the goal at the end of it, it's a 6 week intensive
Mm.
one-on-one sessions with me, and then I have chat support as well. And then I this is a new thing I'm adding in, a private Facebook group in case anyone wants to talk to each other.
Yeah, love that.
But we will tap deeply into their intuition and their intuitive process. And by the end of it, hopefully they're walking away with like an everyday practice that they feel really confident in and can make decisions in their everyday life.
Okay, awesome. So I'm being a bit cheeky now. What is like, and if you don't want to tell us, that's fine. What is like a little kind of exercise that people can
Yeah.
do just to start tapping in and sort of seeing what it's all about?
Yeah. My favorite way to start is to just tap into every sense. And I think a lot of people have heard of the clairs, so like clairaudience, clairvoyance.
Claire Turner.
Um, yes, all of you. But we can also tap into our physical senses. So those are considered psychic senses. So like if you're hearing voices in your head, that would be clairaudience. Not
Mm.
always, obviously. Talk to your psychologist if that's a problem. um, but you can also talk, think about like, how does this stone feel in my hand? What does that tell me about myself? What colors really stand out to me in the world? What is the significance of that? And so starting with stuff that's tangible, that feels like you can have a grasp on it, can be really like a jump start to your intuitive process. Sometimes it's smells or tastes. Like food is so integral to our bodies and to our intuitive process.
Yeah.
So if you have, like for example, when I'm teaching about ancestral work, one of the first things I do is ask students to cook or go to a restaurant or whatever to buy food that their ancestors would have eaten and like prepare it in the way that their ancestors would have eaten it, because that's like one of the deepest ways that you can connect to an ancestral practice, because it's passed on.
That's really interesting. I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And then if you're really trying to like get your intuition online, then you would want to sit in meditation and just allow the psychic senses to come online and
Yeah.
just notice, no judgment,
Yeah.
journal it out. And often by the end of that first journal session where you're like just paying attention, you'll have at least one creative download.
Yeah,
Like,
I
oh,
love that because I've noticed in my own practice, I do my best. I don't do it every single day, but I do my best to sit for about half an hour and just nothing. I don't
yeah.
meditate. I usually, if I can, I do it outside unless it's raining. Um, but bare feet on the ground and just sit. And I might go in with a question
Hmm.
or I might not, but I just sit. And I found that there is nothing that can't be solved by 30 to 60 minutes of just nothing
Yeah.
and just letting, and it does things just kind of, there's at the beginning, it's all kind of like, I should be doing the washing or whatever it is. But then it does and I love the word download because that really is what it feels like. This
Hmm.
stuff sort of sleeps into your head, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it could be a holy fuck, that's why that's happening, or it could be a, oh, I should do that, and it's really, really interesting. I love that.
Yeah. And sometimes with intuition, all we're doing is just creating space. Like that's all it is. We're just making space for it to arrive. So even when I'm asking people to use like a stone or something, like they're just pulling their focus into like one thing so that everything else can settle,
Yeah,
and it,
love
and it comes.
love that. Have you found that because this has come up in some of my sessions with people, particularly if they're on the go all the time or there's a
Mhm.
feeling they're trying to avoid feeling, they tend to, the only chance that their intuition has or their subconscious has to get through to them is when they go to bed.
Yeah.
And there's some weird ass dreams going on. I mean, I had a guy who came to me, and one of his big things was he was having these horrific nightmares, which has since
Mm,
stopped. But it was like, well, that's the only, you're blocking it out during the day. You're
yeah.
you're doing all the time. There's noise all the time. You're not just sitting with yourself. You going to sleep is the only time you shut up long enough for your subconscious or your intuition to actually be heard. And so then
Yeah.
it comes through in dream form, but then I guess
Mm,
if you've been ignoring it, I guess it has to kind of be a little bit nightmarish because it's all built up kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's jumbled at that point, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not just all coming in at once. It's like you don't know how to sort through it at that point because you're
Yeah.
not giving it a channel. Um, when someone is there, I usually find that they're also like afraid of their feelings. And so they're like pretty intentionally blocking it out. Like it's not just a subconscious thing that yeah, they're really like,
I got
don't
it.
bother me with it. So I'll start them off with like a coloring practice or something that's like quiet enough, but not entirely nothing.
Yeah.
That they can kind of just like let it come through. Or like, have you seen automatic writing?
I I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it, and
Yeah,
I've kind of attempted it, but I can't make out any of the words. It's all
you
just
don't have to.
scribble.
There's no requirement to get any of the words.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a practice of like get making it because like what your mind wants to do before you get the like big intuitive hits is just get it out. So the automatic writing just helps to feel like you've taken that and like pushed it out through your hand onto a piece of
Yeah.
paper. Like now
Because
you don't have
is
to
this
worry about
what some people call spirit writing, or is that different?
maybe, I don't know. I actually don't know what spirit writing is,
Oh,
but
okay. That's a term. Yeah, okay.
I will have to look that up.
It's very similar because it's I don't but I don't know if I should be looking at the page or if I should be like that or
I would just act like you're actually writing like a diary entry
Okay.
and just go. And
Yeah.
there's no you can write it on the same line if you don't want to waste paper, that's totally fine. Or I've seen people even like just draw circles as
Yeah.
they're letting their thoughts do what they're doing. So
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
it's just a matter of like if we're afraid to let it happen, what can we do to make it feel like that's not so scary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, and I'm prepared to be wrong. I've been wrong once before. I have the time and date now.
Just once.
Just once. I would imagine, given what you do, there I'm going to use the word skepticism to be nice, but I imagine you run across a hefty amount of skepticism from people who perhaps see this as something dangerous. Particularly, you're mentioning the Christianity and the religious side of it,
Yeah.
that might view this as in somehow dangerous or connecting with I guess powers that we don't know about or whatever. So what I mean, if it was me, I'd ignore them. But when I mean, have you ever got into a debate like that with anyone? And what's the sort of, because I know it's very difficult to
Yeah.
convince someone of something they're already convinced about.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I don't. I avoid that type of conversations because I just don't think it's my place to tell someone what to believe.
yeah, okay.
But like here's me admitting I've had a fear of visibility. And so I just haven't run into that. The people who have been like attracted to my content are pretty like either convinced or they support me enough to just like not
Yeah,
engage.
yeah,
Um, or they'll like engage because they know I want engagement, but they're not like trying to have a conversation about
yeah,
it. But like I guess I'm open to more of that coming in, knowing that like what I want is more
yeah. Because
people with eyes
yeah,
on me.
I mean, I suspect this is quite kind of divisive. People are um,
It can be.
people are either
But
into
I've
it or
also
they're like,
noticed that recently it seems like people are a lot more open to it.
hmm,
It feels like even people who are like deeply religious are tapping into tools like tarot, knowing that it's just a device for like
yeah,
um it could just be psychological exploration and like nothing more, which is fine. That I totally compatible with my um beliefs.
mm,
I always say like I have a little bit of detachment from my beliefs because like if I found out tomorrow that actually God is real and like I was wrong about everything, I don't think I would be devastated. I think that would still fit into my belief system, like, that would be fine, just because I don't have that, like, I
Yeah.
have to hold on to this so strongly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and even with, like, my views of the Christian God and Jesus and, like, all of that stuff to me is much more like, well, spirits are like people, like, they're not that
Mm.
different from us. Like, if I can communicate with them, then I can
Yeah.
communicate with a Christian God too. Like, that
Yeah.
would be fine. I would figure out how to make that relationship work. In the
Yeah.
end, like, relationships are relationships, no
Yeah. I
matter
love that.
what
I
plane
love
we're
that.
on.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. So, Ketki, my lovely, is there anything that I haven't asked? I'm about to ask you in just a moment how people can get hold of you. But is there anything I haven't asked you that you're like, I mean, I wish they'd asked me that?
I don't think so. This was really fun.
Oh, I love this. I could jam about this all day.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, I think I told you when we having our session, my auntie is a published author
Yeah.
in spirituality and stuff. And one of the things she started exploring is she was finding that, and you may get this as well, um, a lot of people, and you were talking about sort of people starting to tap into this kind of, I'm going to call it world, and get curious about it, because I think people are experiencing stuff
Yes.
and they can't understand it. They kind of know it happened, but then there's that, oh, I don't, what was that? But they
Yeah.
don't talk to anyone because it's like, if I tell anyone about this, they're going to think I'm a friggin' loony.
Mm,
So I'm imagining that you perhaps, I don't know, do you get a few people of that kind of ilk, and actually you're
all the
like a
time.
real relief for them because there's someone here who's like, no, you're not bonkers. This is all very natural kind of thing.
Yes. Oh my god, huge. A lot of people who come in are like, I had this crazy thing happen in my house and I don't know if it was real, and like I watched the horror movies, so I don't know if it was a demon or like what was going on. Like there's a lot of that, and it's
Yeah,
obviously a lot of it is fear based.
yeah,
But it's really nice to have the session and just be like, okay, well, let's tap into it and see what was going on. And I will probably say some really woo woo stuff. You can choose to believe what I tell you or not. But yeah, almost always at the end of those sessions,
yeah.
it's like, thank you for not making me feel like a crazy person.
Yeah, and it seems like such a little thing, but I actually think that's so important because it really worries people. Am
Yeah.
I bonkers? Am I a bit of a, did I imagine that? Am I a bit weird, or did that
I mean,
happen?
it's like for practitioners who start out as skeptics, which was me, it is like one of the longest journeys around, like, even now, right? Like it still shows up of like, what if I embarrass myself? What if I feel so dumb at the end of this? What if and I think that is why I've come to the point where I'm like, I actually don't need to be so attached to it that I will feel ridiculous if I found out that that wasn't true. Like, it's fine. I can learn more information and like pivot if I need to.
Yeah,
But because we're so born into this like culture of conviction and like you have to know and you have to be particularly like knowledgeable about the thing that you think you know, even at least in the US, science feels like something that people like hold on to so strongly.
it's
And
almost like a shield for some people.
it is, and it's like that's not scientific. That like science, you know what I mean? Like
Oh, science
scientists
changes.
aren't
It wasn't that long ago. The science
it,
said it was safe to smoke cigarettes and even cool.
right. Like every scientist that I've ever talked to who's like deep into their field of study is like, I don't know shit about the thing that I think I know about. Like
Yeah,
every person is like, I thought I knew things, then I learned more. Now I don't know anything.
love that. I love that.
So
I love that you mentioned that because it was one of the things that I can remember I was really scared about. Someone asking a question and me not knowing the answer to it. And it took me a while, but these days I'm more like, I don't fucking know. Let's
Maybe.
try it and find out what happens.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's like, do you want that to be true? If you want
Yes.
it to be true, we can make it true.
Oh, that's powerful. Yeah, I like that. So
Yeah.
just something that's just slid in, stage right. You just
Yeah.
mentioned about people's worry about demons.
Yeah.
I'd imagine, do you get that a lot? Because does it seem to be in certain cultures, or what would you say to people who are worried about bringing in something evil?
Yeah. It honestly is like one of the sexier topics. It's not something
Like,
that comes
well,
up
yeah, demons.
often. Yes,
I've
one of
seen
the
Supernatural.
juiciest topics. um, but like with I don't think that there's good and evil in the world anymore. Like just for how long there's things that we probably should be aware of and protect our energy from,
Mm.
but this like moralistic like intentionality that we attach to it of like that's evil because they are bad and like want to cause chaos, like I don't think that's real anymore. I think that if someone is causing chaos, it's because they feel safe in chaos and they need to do that, and that's
That's a really good point. Well made. I like that.
yeah. Like, they're not doing it to you, they're probably just trying to create an environment that feels safe for them. But obviously at the same time, like we don't want to bring that into our home. And what I tell people is demons are a lot less scary than people. So like the people that you're inviting into your life, the energies, the thoughts that you're allowing yourself to absorb are way more powerful than a demonic entity,
Mm.
especially because demons are rule following. Like they're not chaotic. Like if we're talking about D&D spectrums, like they're not chaotic evil, they're not interested in that, they're like going to follow the rules. And the easiest rule that you can implement for yourself is like, I only allow that which is good for me to be in my space, and if there's something in your space, it's going to leave because it doesn't want to
Mm.
break that rule. um Also, demons are not there to interact with us. They don't really care about us that much. If they do, like we have demons on our spirit team too. Um,
Do we?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
They're because
interesting.
they're also they like to play in shadow, and so the parts of us that light beings don't really want to fuck with, demons will, and they're happy to play with the stuff that you find really uncomfortable. They're
Oh.
actually not as mean or scary as people think that they are. They're kind of actually like pretty compassionate. Like they'll just hold the parts of you that feel heavy and scary,
Mm.
um, make you aware of them, and then help you release them.
Do you know what? I love that because I mean we often in this sort of industry we talk about shadow self and light self,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is you need both to make the whole. But
Yeah.
because we see one as bad,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of judge it and we think we shouldn't want that. So to give an example, um, I've spent a lot of my life in scarcity,
Mm.
and I read a book called Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott.
Ooh, okay.
Amazing book, loved it. But it was all about, there's nothing actually wrong with your shadow self. That thing you think you don't like, so for me, it was scarcity. It's like,
Mm.
actually, there's something you really get off on about it. And it was a
Yeah.
completely different way of thinking about it. And I had to sit down and really, what is it about scarcity that I get off on? What gives me the woo about it? And when I really thought about it, I didn't like admitting it, but it was a few things. It
Yeah.
was that kind of fizzy anxiety is not that far away from excitement.
It's true.
And I got that kind of bubbly do stuff kind of, and I felt really, oh.
Yeah.
I'm an only child who grew up in a pub. So my parents, whilst they were there, they were always working in the pub. So whilst my parents were beautiful and loving, I was on my own a lot. And I think I discovered that when I go, oh my God, I'm so scarce, I get attention.
Yeah.
People swoop in and help me out. If I
Mm.
plead scarcity, I don't have to be so responsible. I get to be the little girl who's looked
Yep.
after. And it was like, holy fuck.
Yep.
But because society says, oh, you shouldn't think like that, you should be go-getting and abundant, it feels like you're doing something wrong, but you're not.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was
It's a
like,
bit of a connection.
that's actually what I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
And I said, when I would start celebrating, oh, I'm feeling scarce. Yeah, woo, this scarce. I feel so popular and attend. It kind of fizzles it out.
Yeah.
Because suddenly it's not taboo. You're not hanging on to it. You can let it
Right.
accept it, you let it go, and it can just filter away. So I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's so interesting about what you're saying about demons with regards to that.
Yeah. They're not, well, and it's like a lot of the light beings that I've channeled are a little bit judgy. So
Isn't it the way?
have you seen Good Omens?
Yes.
It's pretty accurate. There's a lot of that, like, and there is that tension between the good and the dark, and like what's what. Like, obviously there's specifically demons, not that scary. Vampiric energies can be harmful. Again, not, there's not really a
A
moralistic
whole new
like
raft of questions coming on.
oh, I'm so happy to talk about this. This is so fun for me. Yeah, like vampiric energies, again, there's not really a moralistic attachment there. They're not doing it because they hate you. They're just still trying to create an environment that's safe for them. But like, that's harmful. That can hurt. That can drain and steal our energy. And that there's no vampiric energy more powerful than humankind in reality.
Yeah, we're so concerned about, oh, that over there. We're not actually, yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah,
I love that. That's been so, Keki, that has been so interesting, my lovely. I've just been fascinated by all that. I love it.
so fun.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, if people want to learn more about you or get in contact about your program, what do they do?
Just send me a DM. My website is ketki.shop, and they can also follow me on Instagram,
Cool.
which
I will
is
pop the
a
handle
longer
in.
name, so down
I'll pop the
on
handle in. Fantastic. And I'm guessing, do you, if it's a one-to-one thing, I'm guessing you only have a few number
I only have one spot
available.
left in this first
Oh,
cohort.
okay. Okay. So hurry up,
But
people.
yeah, I'll have more. I'll have more coming up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, love that. Brilliant. So website, DM, Instagram, I'll put all the information around here somewhere. That's brilliant.
beautiful.
Ketki, my lovely, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Really fascinating. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.